Assalamualaikum and a very good day to everyone. Welcome back to Ilam MCO webinar series number 4. Today we'll be talking about alternative ways of teaching and learning landscape architecture. First, allow me to introduce myself. I am LAR Dr. Khalila Zakaria, an Ilam Counsel for the Education. And I'm also an associate professor from the Department of Landscape Architecture from International Islamic University Malaysia, IIUM. So in the previous sessions of Ilam webinar, we have talked about the new norm, which is how post-COVID-19 and MCO has changed a lot of the ways of how we do things. In the previous webinar, there has also been a discussion about the role of environment in outbreak prevention. And recently, we talked about the reformation of landscape architectural practice post-pandemic. So today, we'll be talking about education. Now, COVID-19 has struck the world, and this is definitely something that none of us could have foreseen or expected. We did not think that this is how our 2020 would be, didn't we? Universities worldwide had to shut down, just like schools, and now classrooms, lectures, have to move online or remote and be conducted wherever you live, probably at home, in your bedroom, or staying at home and still trying to learn. But in the midst of crisis and any disruption, education still have to find ways to go on. So today, Ilam brings you a panel of local and international educators of landscape architecture from Malaysia, Thailand, and Singapore. And our panels will share insights on how they have used alternative methods of teaching and learning landscape architecture. And I believe that this is something that not only for COVID-19 and the current pandemic, but something that we need to start to think in case in the future other sort of disruptions might happen. So it is my great pleasure to introduce and welcome our panels. With us today, first of all, we have Mr. Ronnie Tan, from School of Design Temasek Polytechnic in Singapore. Ronnie is also the president for Singapore Institute of Landscape Architects, SILA. Hi, Ronnie. Hi, Ronnie. If you can say hi, how
everybody.
are you?
Hi, everyone.
It's glad to have you on board. Okay, and then next we have Dr. Razia Ahmad, the head of Center of Studies for Landscape Architecture from University Technology Mara, UITM. Dr. Razia, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining us today.
Welcome.
And then all the way from the northern part of, above Malaysia, we have Associate Professor Dr. Arya Aruninta from Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, Thailand. Good day, Dr. Arya.
Hi. สวัสดีค่ะ
Sawadee. And from our southern state in Malaysia, we have Professor LAR, Dr. Hassanuddin Lamid, from Department of Landscape Architecture, University Technology Malaysia, UTM. Assalamualaikum, Prof. How are you?
Salam. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you.
Yeah. It's always nice to hear these vibrant voices of educators, because as we know, education is something that needs to be resilient to change, adaptable, and it needs to be agile, because no matter what, we are, nurturing students and teaching students with knowledge, not only to equip them to enter the industry, but also to, allow them to grow into a balanced and harmonious human being. So to kick off the first round, I would like to hear the panel's insights on how the pedagogy or teaching and learning have changed in their respective institutions. As we know, educational institutions make up the biggest population of people that had to go through drastic change and adjustments. Just like schools, universities now have to be conducted remotely and virtually. For the built environment, for the field like us in landscape architecture, and most probably for other fields also, like art and design and creative fields, studios would now have to be conducted at home. So your living room or bedroom might now become your studio and your classroom. And our phones and computers are probably now the most important tool that we have, and we didn't expect them to be doing so much work like before this. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Ronnie Tan. Can you share a bit of your Singaporean experience in Temasek Polytechnic and some of the new methods you have applied, and also some of the challenges of feedback that you faced in teaching landscape architecture, urban design, maybe from the final year up until down until the first year?
Hi.
Welcome, Ronnie.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, let me just give a bit of a context to the teaching in where I'm teaching at Temasek Polytechnic in Singapore. I'm going to share with you some of the approaches, some of the challenges, and some of the learning points that we have learned in this past few weeks. All right. Now, for us in Temasek Poly, online learning is not new. All right, we have tried to do it for a few subjects in our curriculum for each year. And some of the other subjects that are not totally 100% e-learning are in a hybrid model. All right. And then, of course, the rest of the subjects are face-to-face subjects. Okay. Now, currently, I'm teaching in the Diploma in Environment Design and a Diploma in Interior Architecture Design students. Okay. I teach the first year's freshie all the way to the seniors for their studio projects. Okay. Now, the challenges that we face are what I think at the current moment transitional or temporary, because hopefully COVID, and it will go away, all right, eventually. But the challenges that we face now is that because we are all having to work and study from home. However, humans are social and sensorial creatures, all right? This detachment from the social interaction in class and the ability to get a sense of a project, okay? In fact, like, you know, for the sense of a project when you go on a site visit, okay, these are all missing in the current context. So that poses some challenges to our conduct of the classes. But I mean, we are humans, we are all fast learners and we are adaptable. So the current stage that we are in is a transitional stages between two stages of change. And that's why some of this dissonance, some of these challenges we face arise. So there's no playbook for online teaching. Okay? Things change all the time. Social media, our web conferencing platforms change all the time. They get upgraded. So every now and then we have to update ourselves and change with it as well. Okay. Now, officially in school, we use Microsoft Teams and Blackboard Learning Management System to conduct our classes. But a lot of us, personally, we use a lot of other varied platforms to supplement these official platforms. All right, we use YouTube videos, we use WhatsApp. Okay, sometimes we just WhatsApp some of this information to our students. We use this software called Padlet, where the students upload their works for us to create. And personally, I use my iPad. There's this app called Procreate, where I can draw on it, and Procreate actually takes a video of the drawings, all right? And then after that, you can show the students step-by-step processes of the drawings, all right? Now, for virtual site visits, we do it virtually, definitely now, all right? We use Google Earth, Street View, GIS, and I guess for certain projects, whatever available LiDAR scans with their point cloud data. So we use all this information that we can get from open source to augment some of our classes. All right. The thing is, one of the things that we learn along the way is that we have to work smart. We don't always have to create new content all the time. Take, for example, architectural drawing that I'm teaching for the first year students. Traditionally, the students have to work in class, and because they are new to this whole thing about architectural drawing, we literally have to handhold them, right, in drawing lines and using a T-square, Z-square, and all. But now, you know, the students don't even have the opportunity to go out and buy tracing paper or get themselves a set of set squares. So they would have to, you know, make use with whatever they can find in their house, right? Even creating a set of set squares or creating a set of tea rule, using whatever they can find from your house. All right. And so we augment our classes with YouTube videos. All right. The thing is, we curate what we want to show them because there are so many content outside there, right? So we curate what is relevant to the students, and we create content or improve on the content to bridge those gaps that we cannot find outside there. Okay. One of the critical thing is we are teaching the students how to learn, all right? Because the internet is out there. There's so much content. We need to teach them how to curate and source out what is relevant to them. All right. Now, teaching them how to learn is like teaching this student how to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime rather than give him a fish, then you feed him for a day, right? Okay. So we use a lot of online contents. All right. Now, some of the challenges that we face along the way is, first of all, connectivity, right? The basic assumption is that in order to do online learning, everybody has to be connected. However, there are some students outside there that may be facing some issues with connectivity. All right. So the school is quite good. All right. We provide various tiers of help, financial help, IT support, loan of laptops, so that everybody's baseline in learning is equalized. Nobody gets disadvantaged. All right. And even if they've got issues with home-based learning, like, if their learning environment is not good enough, we provide multi-tiered care provision. Our tutors will check on these students to see whether their learning environment is conducive or not. On top of that, every student would have a care person who will, this care person is a lecturer, is a tutor, is a staff of the school, but may not directly teach the student. However, this care person takes the students under your arms, provide pastoral care for each of these students. Then at a higher level, of course, you have got the school and institutional counselors to render help if the students need to. And of course, at national level, you have those help as well. Okay. Now, some other challenges that we face is the lack of communication. It's not just about verbal communication, but when we were in a school, in a classroom context, a lot of communication is non-verbal. So in a school classroom context, we are able to see whether students are struggling, whether they are facing challenges themselves, whether they've got any difficulties or whether they are okay. However, in an online learning environment, that becomes quite difficult, right? We are not able to see their body language. We are not able to see the kind of learning environment that they are in. What's their family support for them in their learning. So constant feedback from the students is important, and being personable as well. What do I mean by being personal is, what I would personally do is I'll be upfront with my students to tell them that this whole e-learning is new to me as well. All right, so we are partners in learning. Let's come on board together, and you learn, I learn, right? And let's try to make the best of the situation. In a lot of ways, the students are more savvy than us in this digital realm, isn't it? So in a lot of ways, they are the ones teaching me how to go about, using certain apps or certain software, and how about going about this whole online learning situation, right? So it's a two-way traffic. I learn from them, they learn from me as well. So that's how I be personable to them, and hopefully in a way they'll be able to share with me also some of the challenges and open up to me what are some of the difficulties that I can help them with. All right. And another challenge for us in Singapore is you all have, what do you call it, MCO, right? Yeah, in Singapore we call it the circuit breaker, right? So not only do we have to teach from home, our own students, our own kids, our own children are at home as well. So as teachers, we have to juggle between teaching other people's kids and teaching our own kids, and at the same time juggling all this work and family commitment at the same time. So that proves a big challenge to a lot of me and my colleagues as well, because you expect the same output and efficiency pre-COVID, right? So how do you maintain the same level of efficiency and output at the same time when you're trying to manage all this and keeping all these balls juggling in the air without dropping out of them? So I think over time it sort of takes a toll on people, and we have to be careful and aware, and be mindful and take time off sometimes, when we're in this online learning environment, right? Because fatigue is a real thing. It's very different from being in the office environment. We're sitting in front of our laptop, this close range teaching environment, staring at the screen all the time, maybe up to 6 hours a day. So physical fatigue, mental fatigue can kick in, and that's one of the challenge faced by not just the tutors but by the students as well, right? Now, because one thing we found out that is the students tend to sit in front of the laptop hours on end, scared to miss out on certain things that we were to share in class or say, right? So one of the things we learn is to have or institute scheduled breaks in our classroom's timetable, so that the students know that it's time to take a break, and when would we as tutors come in to give them some certain inputs. If not, they'll be sitting there for hours, just scared to go away, just in case we say something, right? So far it's been an adventure, right? It's been a journey of learning for me personally as well. We are constantly learning how to go about e-learning, yeah. So far it's been an enjoyable journey. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, for starting the session by sharing actually a lot of very important points. I will definitely get back to you, on when you mentioned about students making use of what they have, this sort of ingenuity, because we know that, if at the university, everybody would pretty much have this similar sort of resources, computer labs, access to drawing materials. But once they go back home, like you said, they might not even have tracing paper. But how do we still make sure that learning can still continue in different ways? And I'll get back to you on that point, because I think this is another important aspect for designers, for landscape architects, because we are problem solvers. We need to be creative in terms of solving problems or hiccups that we face. All right. So Ronnie mentioned about teaching from first year to the final year, which have different requirement. So for the next speaker, I would like to invite Dr. Razia, because UITM has a large number of students, from diploma in landscape and also degree bachelor's in landscape architecture. So Dr. Razia, I would like to welcome you to share about UITM's experience. I think UITM was also among the first landscape schools that embarked on online learning. So do share the experience that you go through, your approaches and the challenges.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Halila. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy actually to share our experience with other universities or maybe practitioners. Let me start with the chronology of our semester this year. We started this semester actually on the 24th of February, and then it's normal lectures until 17 March, when the MCO actually imposed, starting from 18 March until 12 April. So when we actually received the information for the MCO to be implemented in March, in the newspaper we can read, a lot of people, they're panic buying, and then suddenly we actually experienced quite similar thing, not panic buying but panic lecturing. We are quite afraid, of, embarking into new things, and then we also concerned about our student, and then the student also cannot go home. Some student cannot go home, and stuck in the colleges, stuck in the in their accommodation, in Puncak Alam. So today I think I'm very much happy to share perhaps our approaches and maybe mechanism to handle a big number of students. Yeah. So I would like to share some perhaps the statistical data that we gathered so far. We conducted survey among students. So next. Okay, this is just to recall our nice memories in the studio. You know, when we had a face-to-face studio, we had face-to-face create. It was so lively. Students were so enjoyed the create, and then we did models, verbal presentation, and then when the MCO actually was imposed, everything has changed. Yeah. Next slide. Next, yeah. Next slide. Okay, we are actually missing our campus. Yeah, it's empty, and then student actually left campus, and then we have to work from home. And then the biggest challenge is here. All of us has to be engaged with the new thing, the new normal. The online education, no more traditional education, which is face-to-face, which is commonly we do that, yeah? Next. Okay, this is just to have, to give some information about University Technology Mara. As Dr. Halila mentioned just now, this is actually the biggest university in Malaysia, and we have 35 campuses, 500 plus programs, and it is actually a double intake. So for landscape architecture program, we have 2 campuses, one in Sri Iskandar, Perak, which offer diploma program, and then we have a bachelor degree in UITM Puncak Alam. Okay, next slide. So this is just a basic information about since we have big population for diploma and degree, as you can see in this slide, we have both campuses actually have more than 400 students for diploma and degree, and then more or less actually we cannot comply with Ilam's requirement, which requires 1 to 10, yeah, the ratio student and lecturers. But somehow we managed, yeah, to have ratio 1 to 16 for diploma program in Sri Iskandar, and then 1 to 12 for a graduating student in UITM Puncak Alam. And for the rest of the semesters, we have more or less 1 to 15 ratio between lecturers and students. And then we are very lucky actually, because we managed to have 6 part-timers, yeah, to help us in the studio before MCO, yeah. So they came twice a week in the studio. That's actually very much release our burden, yeah. And the student actually was so happy to have face-to-face. Okay, next slide. Okay, before we had MCO, and then maybe this is coincident, yeah. Our VC and our deputy VC, they did mention sometime in October about adaptive, competent, and then they actually want student to be independent. We can learn anywhere. We must embrace technology and also a digital era. And suddenly when MCO actually imposed, we actually have to comply with this kind of encouragement from our VC and also deputy VC. Next slide. So this is where the biggest challenges actually arrive. Since we have many students, and are we ready to implement the online? How about student infrastructures and infrastructures? What kind of apps and also platform that can be used for the teachings? You know, all those kind of questions actually came to our mind, because this is actually a new thing for all of us. Although the pre-COVID, we do actually conduct a hybrid technique. You know, you combine internet, the digital, and also face-to-face. But since MCO and we have to work from home, it's 100% online teaching. So this is actually the biggest challenge actually for lecturers and also the student. So I'm happy to share with you our action plans towards this issue actually. Next slide. Okay, another challenge is all universities, I think in Malaysia, we must comply with the MQF, yeah? So we must follow the guideline provided by the MQA. So because before this, when we use face-to-face, perhaps we can keep the quality, yeah, to achieve all the requirement by MQA. But I'm not sure whether we can achieve the requirement 100% by using online. Okay, next slide. So this is actually just some overview about our curriculum. So we actually use 8 strands for the curriculum, more or less quite actually in line with the guideline established by Ilam. So we have basically 8 strands for the whole courses. We have design, plant sciences, humanities, etc., etc. And these strands actually require different technique and different approach in teaching. So this is another challenge actually that we are facing now. Okay, next. Okay, this is just some overview about our action plan, yeah, when we receive the information about the MCO, and then we have to work from home, and then students are not with us. So this is actually the first step that we do. We actually conducted a survey among students. So we asked them which medium or which platform which may suit them well. So obviously from the survey, we can see the internet access more or less, you know, is just a moderate for majority of our students, because some student actually lives in the rural or maybe suburban that may have unstable internet. Oh, okay, and sometimes they also experience, you know, less what you call that, they don't have gadget. Some students, they share laptop, they share phone with their family members. So this is actually the information that we gathered before we start the lecture after the MCO. Okay, next. And then the next step, when we actually started the lecture, the work from home and then the online teaching, UITM is very much concerned about about students' welfare in terms of teaching. Yeah, they want to make sure all students actually have access regardless via email or via phone call or via SMS if they can't afford to buy mobile data or if they have little access, yeah, to online teaching. So we actually have to fill up the Google Sheet to inform the administrative the status of our ODL. Every week we have to fill up. And for April, we actually have the result like what you see in the slide. And also the first week of May. So obviously, students actually are very much comfortable with WhatsApp. Most students actually have WhatsApp. We do use Google Meet, but the problem with Google Meet is not many students or not all students actually have access and sometimes have quite low internet bandwidth. Yeah, so basically not much different in terms of pattern, yeah, between April and May. Okay, next. Okay, this is just some, I gathered some information from lecturers about the mechanism, the approaches, how actually they conducted the online teaching. So, for example, like some lecturers, they use WhatsApp to discuss or to give some comment for planting design and for construction, and we use actually all kind of medium, as mentioned by Mr. Roni just now, similar to Temasek Polytech. We use Google Classroom, and then UITM actually has developed one platform for UITM, that we call it U Future. So they will track all the activities done by the student and also lecturers. So this is actually also good for not just for the record, but also for the audit and for accreditation. Okay, next. And this is actually one lecturer, she made an effort, yeah, to when she actually found out that during MCO, we cannot go out and conduct our site survey. So she made a video around her house to show and to teach plant materials. And then the picture on the right, actually, she asked a student to experiment the plant propagation. So meaning that the PLO psychomotor still can be achieved even we are conducting the online now. Okay, next. So I think so far from March until early May, this is actually the finding that we actually found out. Although the online actually have many benefits, there's no doubt, but it also give some quite negative impact, to the student and also for the lecturers. For example, some student actually have to use their own money to buy mobile data, because average we use more or less about 2 gigabyte or 3 gigabyte per day, which is cost of course less than 10 ringgit, and then average they spend more or less 20 ringgit per week, something like that. And then for lecturers, I think as Mr. Roni mentioned, when we work from home, we also have other obligation. So that's actually I would say the negative side. Other than that, I think we should be very positive and we should embrace digital era and also digital behavior. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Razia, for your sharing. I think, yeah, I mean, I very much agree with you, is that for, I think, most universities, probably all around the world, that online learning is not something new. We have actually done blended learning, but this is probably the first time that the majority, if not all, of the courses have to go online. And like, there was a very important point that you make about panic lecturing, because, you know, the mass public would go on panic buying, and, you know, educators, school teachers, university lecturers, all of a sudden are overwhelmed by all these new tools. You know, some we may have used, some we may have not used, and then trying to explore and learn and find out what might work best for the students. And the point that, you know, as educators, we need to be mindful of the different conditions of our students. And I really like the photo that you shared about the lecturers using their own plants at home to teach how to, you know, propagate plant. This means that, you know, not only students have to be agile and adaptable, but definitely it has to start with us, the educator. Thank you, Dr. Razia. So, you know, from Malaysia, you know, let's go to Bangkok and listen to Dr. Arya. Dr. Arya teaches, other than studio, professional practice, and also landscape construction. So I've always been wondering, you know, studios, we know, like Ronnie shared, we can share about designs online and use tools like iPad, Procreate, or any kind of tablet to give feedback. And even WhatsApp, like Dr. Razia showed, one of the simplest tools to ensure that communication can still go through. Now, I look forward to Dr. Arya to share how Chulalongkorn University, and especially her courses, does in terms of introducing alternative methods for teaching and learning. Welcome, Dr. Arya.
Yes. First of all, thank you, Ilam and also Kalila, to invite me to this webinar. And I would like also to express my experience to all of you. I will share you some slides. Okay. The topic of today will be about the alternative way of teaching and learning in landscape architecture, the experience in Chulalongkorn University. So I would like to start with this one. It's about the first step, that only one small step for the man, but I think it's one giant leap for the mankind. Sorry. This is what we are facing now. Chulalongkorn University, one of the oldest university and the top rank in Thailand and Southeast Asia. Chulalongkorn University is already 104 years old, and our Department of Landscape Architecture, where I teaching, is about 43 years old. So during the very first spread of the coronavirus in February, we have experienced this. Now, during this time, during February the 17th to about 2 weeks, we have to host an international workshop with Japan, Indonesia, in Bangkok, Thailand. So we invite them to come to Bangkok in February 17. But as you see from the announcement, 2 days later, in 19th of February, Chulalongkorn University started to announce the protective measure against the spread of the COVID-19. And during the workshop, again, in 21st of February, the measure become more stronger and heavier. So our groups of students, unfortunately, 3 of the Japanese students from Hokkaido University had some fever after the field trip. And now we have to stand that those 3 students to the hospital, which located in a remote island, Tichang Island, which is the property of Chulalongkorn University. And all of the group have to cancel everything and came back to Chulalongkorn University and have some initial investigation about the COVID. Fortunately, everybody were negative. And after that, Chulalongkorn University also have introduced all the announcement that we have to move everything online. During that time, in March 16, we haven't closed the university yet. So we start to move everything online. So for the platform we have, we already subscribed Google Suite packet, which means all our students and teachers can access to the Google with unlimited storage. And also Microsoft, we can access to the application Microsoft Teams with unlimited also. So we try to move everything, including all the class, to be online to prepare everything for the lockdown. And later in March 22nd, we have to temporarily close. One of our staff also infected with the COVID. And also we have many announcements, including temporary workplace closure. Start from the March 22nd to April 12th. So our department have very much concern about this situation. So in 25th of March, after 3 days after the lockdown of our university, our department have a meeting, and we try to think about our semester, which start from January until the May. What happened? Now we are during the almost the midterm break. And what happened for the midterm examination and also the other studio, which also maybe the second project of the semester, and also final examination, and also final project jury, what's going to happen. So we think about different platforms and different applications, and this is what I study for the department meeting. So we study about the Google, which Chulalongkorn University already subscribed, and also we also have Chula.zoom, which is we also subscribe the packet for all the lecturers and teaching staff, but not for the student. But the student can join the Zoom meeting from the hosting of the teacher. And also we have Google Jamboard. We study also the Microsoft Whiteboard that may be good for the studio decrypt. And also we try to convince everybody to start the virtual classroom and distance learning. I introduced my colleague about the Google Classroom, about how to do the examination, how to put the assignment, and also I also introduced them about how to do the quiz form to do the grading system and examination. And we already have the Google Drive and also OneDrive with unlimited folder. So we have to make use of that. And we consider about the step-by-step how to convince the student to do this. Oh, I forget to tell you that all the things like internet difficulty in our university, some of the students also have some problem. But Chulalongkorn University offers them the internet SIM card, so they can get it free from our university. So the students have no problem with the internet access. But for the computers, so most of our students, especially Faculty of Architecture and also our department, landscape architecture, they all have a notebook, laptop for doing like AutoCAD and also some presentation of the project. So this have no problem. And this is the courses that I teach. So we start with this international workshop. We have a design studio, project design for third year students, which is in the second project of the term. Usually we will do the urban project. So this year we cannot go out to the urban site visit. So we have the idea to do, I will show you later. And also we have construction. Number 2 for the first year grad student. We have critical thinking class and professional practice. And this class is very interesting because I try to ask the student to understand more about the health issue, especially about the pandemic of the COVID-19. And the student also present the project about the COVID-19, very nice. And this is how the studio, this is a professional practice, the firm project have been presenting. This is about the BOQ and also the firm project. It's what they do. And this is the final thesis, the fifth year thesis jury. So we invite all the jurors from many places, including this Mangkon from IFRA, the former Thala president, and some of the special guests. And the students have to submit the video to our classroom folder, and then they have to appear online during the presentation to answer the question. And this is how the students work paperless. I mean, they have to do the paperless because this is like the drawing that have to put on the wall, like 2.5 meters long and 1.5 meters high, but they present online. And this is the juror. And this is how the juror can enlarge and see, expand the photos and see online with the student. And this is how the student work in the whole, the Zoom of the whole thing, Zoom all. So we consider about the final examination now. So we consider about what kind of classroom and examination room it should be. It can be video meeting, it can be the take home, or it can be file uploading, or what kind of examination. Finally, we decide to have examination from homes. So this is how our students do the examination. And we have the examination uploaded on the classroom with the form and the grading system. And the student can submit because of the Google Suite. So they can submit all kind of files into the folder. They can take the photos of the sketch and also can do on the computer during the time provided, and then they submit. And this is how I check the behavior of the student during the examination. So I can click each person photos and to check whether they have doing something bad. But we use the honor system and the student did it so well. So after that, we have this. Chulalongkorn University extend another to lockdown. From 12th of April, from the first time to the second time, the purple one, to the end of April, which is before the examination. And now they extend to May 31st after the examination. So this is what I think. Another thing for the, I think the last thing that I would like to show you that the situation is bad, but we try to find the opportunity between the bad thing. This is what I convince and assist our 10 years old sister university in northeastern part of Thailand. Usually I have to fly from Bangkok to Khon Kaen airport and take about 1 hour car to Mahasarakham to do the jury, to comment to my student. But now I can assist them to do the design competition to American Society of Landscape Architects. So even though I want to be back to school. For the last slide, I would like to present the video that we have done. Finished the examination last Friday, I feel very released now, and I'm looking forward to the opportunity for the new alternative way of learning. I don't think the bad COVID situation going to be our unfortunate of the thing happen, but we're looking forward to be more resilient and to adapt for the future and to produce more young generation for our future.
Great. Thank you very much, Dr. Arya. from your sharing just now, it seems that although in universities might feel that this is something new to go totally 100% online, but after that sort of learning period, everything sort of stabilized, and then lecturers get used to it, students also get used to it, and then education can go on as normal. And now we discovered that things that usually we could do, we would have to rely on doing face to face, could actually be done online. And it's interesting to see how you shared about having such large number of juries for your students' presentation. And of course, definitely after this, we could have global juries for all of our universities. And I think that this is one of the good outcomes of the MCO, is that before this, we know that we can have sort of this discussion, but we didn't have the push factor to do it. And then look at us today. We're talking, 3 countries sharing about our teaching and learning methodologies, which probably we have not done before on such, an international platform. Thanks again, Dr. Arya.
I would like to join your class jury.
Oh, okay.
If possible.
Yes, we
To
can
finish
keep
all
in
the
touch on
class.
that.
Do you finish all the class?
Oh, so for my university, for IIUM, we actually have not yet started online learning. So the university gave the student an early break. So officially for IIUM, we will start on the 1st of June. So this is actually very beneficial for us too, because like Chulalongkorn, Temasek Polytechnic, UITM, and after this UTM have all embarked on it. And then I think so far it has been a great learning, even for me personally, to know of the different approaches that could be done. All right, so we're going to go on to the next panel, which is Prof. Hasanuddin. So now UTM has also embarked on online learning during the MCO period. And I would like to be very interested to know your UTM's experience, and also maybe some insights from Prof. Hasanuddin on what this means for education at large, and especially education in landscape architecture. Welcome, Prof. Hasanuddin.
Assalamualaikum. I'm from UTM Landscape Department. So, I have to admit, the Landscape Department UTM, we were caught on a hop actually as to how we are going to deal with this situation, right? It came out of the blue, really. And so most of us were feeling our way around as to how we want to go about dealing with this particular situation, all right? So conceptually, what we did was we tried to do some appraisal with regards to the learning environment that we had before, right? And the learning environment that we can adopt, and at the same time, try as much as possible to keep to the objectives that we have set out during the early part of the semester, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve that. But I think we must have to admit, because we were virtually unprepared. I think in terms of fulfilling all the objectives, may be a bit far-fetched. I think the UST also would agree with this. So one of the things that we did was to do an appraisal of the learning environment that UTM, that the Landscape Department has at that time. So one of the things that we tried to conceptualize is to see how the dynamics of the learning environment that we had before the COVID-19, and to see how the dynamics of the learning environment can be restructured, can be so that we can still move forward, although quite hesitantly, but still fulfilling all the requirements that's needed to be taught, either you're in the first year, second year, third year, or in the fourth year. So this is one of the things that we did. So one of the things that I think that came into our mind when we were discussing this in one of our meeting is to see how the students would actually react to this new environment. But at the same time, actually, we also should be reflecting as to how the lecturers also be reacting to this new environment. So generally, I think apart from looking at the various tools that's available on market, and looking at the capacity that of the students in terms of how they can get involved in adopting of any of the digital tools that's on market, for example. So we decided to kind of do a kind of environmental psychological approach to dealing with the situation. In other words, because we believe that, you know, a student, they are so used, in fact, the lecturers are so used to the old traditional way of teaching, and so traditional way of a traditional quality of environment. You know, when talking about learning environment, we always know that, you know, learning environment is, there are two aspects to learning environment. One is that you can learn from the environment, and then the environment can also inspire you to learn. So these are the two things which only a university or institution would be able to provide students. But now the situation is different. So the dynamics are entirely different. Students are away from the studio, they are away from the institution, they are now at home, right? So we, from the psychological point of view, we know that an environment can have an effect, can construct their behavior, their perception of them being a student. Remember, these students are they are technically full-time students, right? So, but when they're at home, they're going to be so blasé, they're going to be distracted, they're going to be preoccupied by other things apart from the things that we ask them to do. On the other hand, if they were to be in a formal environment like in a studio, I'm quite sure that any form of distraction would not happen. So these are the things that we were concerned about. So apart from learning the tools, apart from providing the tools, we also try to understand how the students are reacting to the situation. So what we do was we always try, because we have what we call an academic advice system. In other words, each students are given a lecturer for the lecturers to ask them, for example, and if there's any situation that they are facing, any issue that they may have faced up to, how can the lecturers help them in dealing with their situation when they are home. So what we did was we tried to see what kind of infrastructure that they had at that particular time. So many of them complained, or they had certain concern that they don't have good access to the internet. I think this is a topical issue, I think, with many of the schools. So we try also to see how we can address this particular issue, right? So if we look at the environment that we are now, this is what we can define as an immersive learning environment. In other words, it's an environment which is artificial. It's an environment where things are not real, right? It's done through digital, and there's no touchy-feely in the way we approach the teaching. So just to kind of give you some visual examples or some visual way of how students actually conduct their work, I'll show you my slides, right? So it is basically an environment which helps people to learn in a proper context of learning, right? Either officially or culturally or socially. Okay. Now the next picture, for example, is a picture which tells a lot, actually, which tells a lot. Now this is the environment that landscape students really thrive, and also lecturers. You know, go on field trips, for example, feel the heat, feel the rain. You know, walk tirelessly and enjoy each other's company. And apart from learning, doing site analysis and site appraisal, this is what I think which we don't have the opportunity to do. Okay, so so one of the issues also that we have also tried to see is how do we manage this virtual environment, this virtual learning environment. So one of the things that concerns us is discipline, preparedness for the class, either by the lecturers or by the students, and how the students are motivated. You know, how excited are they? When they want to come join online, for example. All right, and then whether the environment is safe, comfortable, and whether the learning environment is reliable or not. So these are some of the issues that we had to deal with. I have to admit that not many things have been addressed well, but this, at least we are quite clear. These are the things that we need to address and see whether one day, as we move along slowly, we're able to address this in a much more effective way. Right. So the next slide I'll show you some of the examples of some of my students' work. This is an example of the first year student, right? I teach also the first year and also supervise the final year students. Now, as you can see in the slides, they've sent this through WhatsApp, right? And I've downloaded this onto my pad, and then I commented to her about her work, but she presented this verbally, and I was just listening to her online through Google Meet, and then I give her some verbal response to what she did. And then they said, come back to me very, very quickly, and with regards to what I've just commented, and she came up with this one here. And again, she was not happy, and neither was I. So what I did was I downloaded this onto my iPad again, and I did some quick sketch and to show them this is what I meant as to what I just commented on her earlier drawing, right? And then that's how we go on, right? So it was a kind of a system where it was through the WhatsApp, and also was through the even some of them would send you to e-learning as well, right? So we work through that way. So this is an example of how the WhatsApp also provided a complementary or supportive element towards teaching and also instruction. For example, like here, good afternoon, Jane. My name is Sujin blah blah. This is my presentation of my functional diagram. So I responded to her work with this one here, and so on and so on. This is an example of her drawing, and I also made some comments with regards to her drawing. Okay. Okay, this is an example. Okay, this is this particular student. She's in Indonesia. So her connecting line was not good at all. You know, I think she's from Aceh, I think, or Bogor, I can't remember. Right. So I told her, why don't you just send me a video of her work? Right. And she did. So you can see. So what I did was because I could not capture her drawing just like what I did with the others. So I just captured this on print screen, and I made some comments. So you can see the keyboard here at the bottom here. So these are my drawings, you know, which I said to her that these are the things that she needs to consider to kind of refine her work, right? And again, here on the left hand, on the right hand side is more or less kind of a semi-partial finished work, right? But again, I had some issues with regards to design, and then she sent me back with some of the things from some questions, and she made some circles here to highlight certain changes that she had made to her design, right? So, and then here this is another example of another one for a first year student, just like the other members of the panel. Many of them do not get easy access to papers, right? To any form of stationery, because most of the shops were closed anyway. So they really had to rely upon what they had with them, right? So she sent me this copy. I think it's just a photograph, a picture of what she sent, and I could already see what she did. So I just had to strain my eye to see what was going on with the design. So I sent back to him some of the comments and some of the sketches that I did for him to consider for him to redesign or rethink about what I thought about his design when she sent to me before, right? And then this is the final year work. Now, final year work, because they are about to graduate, so we have to make sure that they are ready for the market. So in terms of the preparation, in terms of the teaching, in terms of the learning, and in terms of the evaluation, we have to be very, very rigorous about this, right? So what we do, because before the coming of the COVID-19, we would typically have a crit session where 4 or 5 students in the group would come and present their work, and then we would sit down, and then after them verbally presenting their work, then we would also verbally comment on their work and leave some gradings and so on and so on. We would write a report so that the report would be a form of documentation for them to refer to when they want to do some refinement work after they presented their work. But in this case, with this new environment, it's a bit difficult. So we have to change the dynamics of how we evaluate and how we do the crit. So for example, this particular student has sent her work to me, again, through e-learning or through email, right? Or through WhatsApp. And I downloaded this, right, onto my pad, and then I made some comments and some sketches here to tell her to consider some of these things that needs for her to make her design better. So, but I had to. We also had a kind of an assessment sheet. So this assessment sheet, in a way, would help us or the student to actually know where they stand in terms of marks and in terms of what we say. Right, because sometimes students may not be able to catch everything that we say, but we try to be brief in what we say, so that whatever we say should represent. Whatever we say, for example, should be represented in this particular assessment sheet. Now, together with this one here, because you may say that how did they verbally present this particular work? So they had also to send a video of themselves presenting their work, right? But that video is not interactive. Okay, right? So it's not interactive. So the assessment has to be done based on what they sent before the video of their verbal presentation, and then they will call me back, and then we do an interaction. right? And a real-time interaction based on what I see and what they presented. So the overall, for example, would be kind of a cumulative evaluation of their work through surrogate method, in the words, which means they send their drawing without them presenting, and then they will send their video, and then we have interaction, and then I will send a copy of my comments on this particular assessment sheet, and they move on from there, right? So this is an example of another final year student. Similarly, right? She would send her work online, right? I would download it again, and I would make some comments on the drawings, and again I would present. I would put my comments based on this particular assessment sheet, right? This is another student. She's not in the group of assessment crit, but she's also but I also supervise her. So I didn't have an assessment sheet for her. So we just had a verbal communication, and I made quite a you can see a lot of writings all over the drawings, you know, because that's the only way for me to be able to communicate with her, right, textually. But eventually she managed, she got in touch with me, so we had a verbal communication as well. So we interact verbally, and I explained to her as to what she needs to do, as to what I mean by what I written on each of the drawings that she submitted to me before this, right? So this is another student's drawing. Again, it's a drawing where there's a lot of text that's been written all over the drawing. Of course, this will not be sufficient for the student to be able to understand what I meant. So they had to call me up, or they will call me up so that I can explain to them as to what I meant by my comments. Okay, and then after all of this, all the lectures, whether you're teaching studio or whether you're teaching subject, for example, you are required to fill up this online Google form and to have it submitted. So the university would receive this online, and they will very quickly be able to evaluate my performance and the students' response to my teaching or my session with them. Okay, so so I see the situation that we have now as being an opportunity for us to have a look again as to how we should be looking at our students, as to how we should be looking at our work, and how we should be looking at our teaching, and how the students should be looking at the way they want to learn landscape architecture, right? So we have to re-establish the culture of learning, find out and maybe another form of protocol of teaching and learning, and also maybe we'll practice. You know. So let's not try to segregate teaching or practice from this particular environment of learning and teaching. The cutting practice also has a role to play in providing the learning opportunities for students, right? And then reconstructing the method of teaching and learning. So by using the digital tool, for example, is a form of reconstructing the method of learning and teaching. And then revising the tools of teaching and learning, right? So for example, some students, they may not be able to draw freehand, so they have to adopt another way of doing things. Or sometimes they may not be able to describe things verbally, so they have to write things down, for example. So we have to look at these things, because remember, they don't have full access to all the things that they would normally have when they are in the campus. So we have to understand some of the shortcomings that they have, that they're facing up to when they want to do certain things. So when we do this, I think one of the most important things we need to do is kind of reassess or assess again the methods of assessment, and also the objectives, and also the requirements as to what needs to be the students need to do for them to acquire a certain grade, whether it's average, poor, or excellent grade, right? And again, the opportunities here again also is now to redefine distancing. In other words, can the distance that we have now between the students and the lecturers, you know, one in Indonesia, one in Jakarta, and one in Johor, for example, how does that distancing can affect the way we are going to do, or the way we are going to do our things in the immediate future, right? So I think that's all from my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof, for sharing on UTM's approaches. And among the key points that I got from your sharing was that, you know, communication, being systematic, being clear on what is communicated and getting feedback is essential.
Yeah.
because this is, all of us, like you said, not just students, but lecturers also are adapting to these new approaches. And then the sort of response would be different from, lecturer to lecturer, and also from students to students.
That's
so
right.
taking it sort of, a phase at a time is something that we all need to do. Okay, so, the panels have shared very rich and various ways of doing alternative teaching and learning in landscape architecture. And I believe this is useful not only for our field, but also relevant fields such as architecture, urban planning, art and design, because both of the fields use both creative sides and also technical knowledge in education. So we're going to go to sort of getting like a lightning round to get very quick feedback on some of the questions that I have. So we've talked about methodology, and now COVID-19 has urged the world and landscape architects to rethink about the environment and public space. Maybe I want to start with Ronnie. If you can quickly share your thoughts or insights on how do you see this as impacting landscape architecture education in terms of what is learned and will be taught in the future. Ronnie?
Right. I think moving forward, this whole episode provides us the platform to revisit our relationship with two main things primarily. One is our relationship with nature. The other one is the relationship with the digital. All right. Now, first of all, with nature, much of our education so far has been focused on the megafauna and megaflora. I mean, if there's a word for it, okay. However, we may also need to teach and for everybody to learn about the immediate local environment that we all live in, all right? Because they are our immediate neighbors, isn't it? All right, the creatures, the plants that we live in, and they have got the direct impact that on us as a person, all right? So far, as landscape architects, we are very good at human-centric design for urban living and also possibly for conservation. But I think we can do better at this interface between nature and human, all right? Is this area where the human and nature collides. And this is where all these issues about COVID, all these viruses comes about, isn't it? It's where these areas of human and nature collides at this interface, all right, presumably, okay? So there is one area where we think we can learn more from and teach and to do research more on in, all right? The other areas that I thought we ought to move forward with in our profession or the teaching of our profession is this transdisciplinary research and learning, right? Transdisciplinary with our fellow ecologists, horticulture, architecture, transport planners, etc. But also beyond the immediate realm of our area of concerns, maybe some transdisciplinary research with professionals in the fields of medicine, psychology, infocom and technology, I think that would help and go a long way in our overall understanding and appreciation of the world that we all live in. However, I guess the challenge is how much resources we have, right? I mean, we are all limited by time and space in how we teach our students, all right? How can we shove in our curriculum with all these other extracurricular focus? Well, one way is to do guerrilla specialist programs, right, that are not beladen or shackled by conventional curriculum structures or administration, right? So we can look at where some of these training needs are, or gaze into a crystal ball of what is needed, and do a hit and run in such research and training, all right? And of course, we need to have a firm and strong depository of such research and work. If not, things will be wasted and not used along the way. All right. The other aspect that we need to revisit probably is about our relationship with the digital. So far, we rely on our analog intuition and creativity to solve some of our design problems. All right. However, I think more performance and more evidence-based designs need to come on board. Right. In the future, it's not mere aesthetical designs anymore, but also looking at how Mother Nature works, looking at employing biomimicry and bringing back some of these ecosystem services functions into what we design. So it's not just about we in the world, not so much human-centric, but how do we interact and live with the fellow creatures that we share the world with. And one possible area for expansion in this is the use of computational design tools, right? Because using our own human perception and what we understand of the world, we are limited to a certain extent. Our interaction with Mother Nature is so complex, and a complex design solution is required. The architects and engineers have been using computational design tools for complex form finding and structural design for the longest time, right? I think we can latch on this, all right, and use digital sense interpretation of the environment and computational design to help us understand the world a bit better, so that we can perceive and design the interventions for it better, okay? The area where, like what I said, the area where human and nature interface, I think that is one area where I think a lot of research needs to be done still. In Singapore, NParks and SUTD and NUS, they are doing research on this. You know, the more we know, actually, the less we know, right? We have got some successes, but we are just barely beginning to understand the intricacies of this area. It is a very complex area, but I think we ought to do it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. So now MCO has required students to require a lot of skills, like as we can see what Dr. Razia has shared, and also Dr. Arya, Prof, and also Ronnie, that students are now learning a lot more tools than probably the time when we were students. So Dr. Razia, I'd like to ask you one final quick question. Among all the skills that students have to learn now, what do you think some of the most important skills that will be very useful for them? Because they will be the next generations, the graduates will become the younger generations of landscape architects that they can bring to the industry.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Halila. I'll try to answer the question. I think first thing first, I would like to suggest one of the key factor to be successful is the attitude. So I would say students or lecturers must have positive attitudes towards changes. For instance, nowadays, when we have to work from home and then students also away from us, some students actually they wake up quite late. So this is actually not a good attitude, because when they perhaps stay in their college, which is very close to the campus, but now they have a very comfortable space, they have all kind of facilities at home, So that's actually number one. The attitude to embrace changes, the attitude to learn new things, and willing to work hard. And some students just, they like to shortcut. So I wouldn't recommend a student to use shortcut all the time. So that's number one. I think, and then number two, Google is our best teacher, I would say, in this digital era. So I think students, beside lecturers, beside practitioners, they also can learn from other projects all over the world. They just browse from the Google. They can have many examples. So meaning to say, the network and willing to learn from maybe colleague from the US or maybe from Thailand. So I think especially in UITM, so because we are all Bumiputra, so I would recommend I think students to open up their mind to work or to communicate closely with other international students and also practitioners. Yeah. So I think that might answer your question, Dr. Halila.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Razia. And I'm very happy that you pointed out attitude. It's one of the assets that all
Yes.
students and lecturers need to have. Actually, you know, all landscape architects need to maintain that good attitude. Right. So to Dr. Arya, you seem to be very well versed and you know, in using various different apps and then embracing technology for all your classes. For you, I would like to ask you, you know, if you could share some encouragement or motivational words to lecturers. You know, Dr. Razia shared about students. How about to lecturers? You know, how can you encourage them to also be, you know, ready for changes and then embrace all this new technology?
As I show you at the beginning of the slide that I already introduced this kind of application and technology to my colleagues in my department. So what I found out is even the audit colleagues already complete doing Zoom meeting and even make the comment interactive with the student via Jamboard and also whiteboard. So during the Zoom, we present not only the static slides, but we comment the student with the drawing and with the write. And as you already saw from the video, that we comment and the student answer is very simple to everybody. I think we know how to use pen, sketch, and we know how to communicate through our brain, through the hand, through the graphic communication, and through verbally. So I think everybody can do that. And I would like to answer the former question about the skill that we have to vet in the future. I think it's very important, not only Googling, but we have to have critical and creative thinking. So that's why in our department, we focus very much on the course named Creative and Critical Thinking. So this is not about creative in our design studio, but we taught the students how to read, how to be the critical reader, how to be the critical thinking, and how to communicate the design into different media. Not only the papers, but also the video, the mock-up modeling, or even the as-built, the new design build project. So I think everybody, including the older generation like ours, like us, so we can encourage everybody to teach the student that kind of skill. So I think this is very important. So you don't give up about your ability to understand the technology, but I think the technology is only the tool, similar to the ruler, similar to the calculator, the former calculator. You can use computers. Everybody can use computers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arya. And you're right, you know, it's not about the age. You could be digital natives or you could be senior lecturers or professors. Like today, we have sort of different generations of academics and they're from different background, but it's also the, you know, learning, taking it, you know, a day at a time, and also adapting to the changes and just keep learning. You know, that's what academics do too. Okay, so for Prof. Hasanuddin, I'm going to pick out what you mentioned about the environmental psychological approach, because I think this is something very close to landscape architecture education. So Prof, do you see that the philosophy of education for landscape architecture will you know, change and shift in the future, or are there certain fundamental things that will be maintained and certain things that might shift according to time? Prof?
Okay, environmental psychology is very close to my heart because I've been teaching this for years, you know, and I strongly believe in this very, very passionately. And it's something which I've been trying to advocate even among my lecturers, you know, as to how environmental psychology could be a platform for us to move on. Because, you know, because we seem to be in this rut of producing students who are able to design, design things in a very arty way, make things work, functional, and easily maintained. And sometimes condescendingly thinking that we know what the users want, you know. But to me, if we really want to have our design to be successful in every sense of the word, in a very, very profound way, we have to really know the people, right? And just like what Ronnie said, we also have to know the environment, right? And to know the environment, we have to talk to the environment, you have to talk to the people, right? Of course, environment has a certain way of moving about, of evolving. So does human beings. So to me, if you put these two things together, the man and the environment, I think what underlies these two elements is quality of life. I think this is what I think most of us are now desperately realizing, that quality of life is what we're looking for. As you can see, you know, we have been cooped up in our house for 2 or 3 months now, and everyone is so desperate to just have, you know, a breath of fresh air just outside, and people are willing to break rules and regulations just to be outside, for example. So you can see how people are desperate now, really, to get a feel for the environment. To me, this is a real sign, and it's an opportunity for us to really see how the environment can help to improve the quality of the people that we are designing for, right? And the best way to do this is to understand the psychology of the people who will be using that space, and not just simply understand their physical and functional needs, but way beyond that, you know. So have a chat with them, be part of that community, get to know them, and so on and so on. Because when you have a touchy-feely approach to knowing the people, then you have a touchy-feely approach to doing the design. And hopefully with the people being happy with the environment, and the environment also being happy to accept the people who coming to the environment, you're going to have a well-sustainable environment. And the environment is going to be happy, and so would the people, right? So that's what the thing would be. So to me, environmental psychology, to me, is a real starting point. But having said that, I'm quite sure we've done this at some degrees in various ways, either in practicing or even in different academic institutions. But now it's really to put it really in the limelight, now, put it in a focus that we must look at the people much more seriously now, really, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. So in a way, the physical distancing that we're facing now, and this physical disconnection, is actually reminding us of the need to reconnect with, with our surroundings, not just people, but also the environment.
That's true.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you to all the panels for feedback. So before I wrap up with the key points that we gather from this webinar, I'd like to share that, to the audience who might be from other countries, that in Malaysia, the Institute of Landscape Architects Malaysia, Ilam, has prepared a guideline for universities. So this is in terms of guiding the universities on conducting their studios, classes, and assessment, as what Dr. Razia and Prof. Hassanuddin have shared. So our guideline is actually in line with MQA, which is the Malaysian Quality Assurance. And, we acknowledge that teaching and learning needs to be flexible, because this is a temporary situation that we need to overcome, but at the same time to ensure that the learning objectives are being delivered. Now, some might be wondering, what happens to internship? So, upon discussing with the head of departments and also looking into what the ministry advises, for Ilam, we are flexible in understanding that some universities might have to shift their internship to another semester, or even if the students and the respective offices opt for a work at home method, if the office continues to work from home, so the students doing the internship might have to do so, this could be done as well. And then alternatively, if those two options are not doable, the universities might also switch the internship into industrial projects. So at the end of the day, the universities need to share how those objectives are met, and then the proper documentation of how they are delivered. Because we understand that in this unprecedented situation, we cannot go as we were before pre-COVID. And I think the lesson that we learned today is in terms of being very creative and also very critical in how we do our alternative teaching and learning. All right, so I would like to share with you 5 key points that I gathered from all of the speakers. The first one is the detachment. Currently, we're facing detachment of social and environmental interaction, because we know we can't go out. We are probably able to go out in our immediate environment, But this in return would make us become perhaps more attentive to what is around us and reminding us of the need to reconnect more before. As Prof mentioned, we learn two ways, learning from the environment and also how the environment influences or shape what we learn. The second point is in terms of, as what Dr. Arya have shared, in terms of the topics of discussion for the class and projects. Now, I was very happy to see that Dr. Arya shared some of her assignments are about a pandemic-related project. So we can take the opportunity to bring this situation to our students to encourage them to do critical thinking and problem solving. And then number three is bridging the world. You know, it might be bridging from different countries, like bringing different juries from various parts of the states, even to bringing people to the homes of the lecturers or the students. Like Dr. Razia shared, where the lecturers shared about the plants in her own probably front yard and used that material to teach. Maybe before this, we looked really far and we forget what is it that we have around us immediately. So trying to, you know, stay back in tune with what we have. And then number four, we talk about tools. Now, I think nowadays I'm very thankful because of internet and the various webinars. Me too, I'm able to learn many different tools. I think all of the panels have shared the different types of apps that they use to create students and give feedback. But also another most important thing is the attitude and actually the content of what we want to teach. And the final one, what I can conclude is in terms of communication and mindfulness. So this could be in terms of communicating the lessons or, you know, the crit on the project systematically, you know, giving clear feedback, because we know that unclear communication can make people stress out of not knowing what needs to be done. Okay, and then also being mindfulness of the situations that both lecturers and students have to go through. Like Ronnie pointed out, you know, not only students have to go online, but the lecturers may also have children who have to go through online schools. So they have to teach students and also looking into the lessons of their children. So, you know, showing support for our students. And then I think the basic things of even asking, you know, how they are doing. Maybe how our students are doing and also how our colleagues are doing. Because I think as educators, we cannot separate the technical or the mind and the knowledge with the heart. Because this is something different that we do. Because in order to transmit knowledge, you know, it must come from, you know, both the brain and also the heart. So in wrapping up, I'd like to invite each of the panel if they wanted to wish anything to the audience or to address to the public, because this will be the final session of webinar for this MCO. Hopefully we can have more webinar of this. So first, Ronnie, anything that you want to share, last words?
I want to say thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. I mean, I've enjoyed the previous sessions of the webinar on which I was the audience. Thanks for inviting me to come and share what are some of the things that I've learned along the way as well. I guess it's a learning journey for everybody, isn't it, on this online learning thingy. I want to wish everybody the best of health. Selamat Hari Raya Puasa that's coming up. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie, for joining us. And Dr. Arya, any last words?
Yes, I think even we are in the social distancing, but for me, we are closing together virtually. So I think everybody are closing together more than we have been doing before. So I think now I can connect with Mahasarakham University in the northeastern part of Thailand, 500 kilometers far, in a minute. I can meet them every day. I can meet you guys from Singapore, from Malaysia, and also I can connect with my friend in America. So I think now it's no more distancing. It's become closing together without borders.
Thank you very much, Dr. Arya. And now, Dr. Razia, last words from you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Halila. I would like to highlight two important key points, I think. First, landscape architect must go back to perceive landscape as system. And then number two, I guess, COVID actually has made landscape architect and landscape architecture more visible, important and needed. So thank you very much again to Ilam and Dr. Halila for inviting me representing UITM for this session. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Razia for accepting our invitation. And then finally, Prof. Hasanuddin, any last words from you?
Okay, I think my final word before we end, I think for each of us, either who's listening, my students, or anywhere around the world, is if you're happy with the life that you had before pre-COVID, for example, just remember that if you're happy with that, we can still keep that, we can still maintain that. And despite many shortcomings that we may have, either in terms of not be able to travel far, in terms of financially, we may have the full amount of money that we usually have, for example. But remember, one needs to be resourceful. Work with what you have. At the end of the day, but do not compromise on what you want, in terms of your needs, or in terms of your whatever that you perceive that will make you happy. But please be resourceful. Then they do not give excuses as to whether things are not good enough. You don't have this and you don't have that. To me, it's just an excuse. As the chairman said, the chairperson said that we are so adaptive, we are so resourceful. So we have to use that ability for us to move on, because life doesn't stop with you. It has to move on. So final word is thank you very much for inviting me, and hopefully everyone will be in good health, and hopefully we see some glimpse of hope in the immediate future with regards to what we're facing now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your sharing. And on behalf of Ilam, I would like to thank all of the panels, first of all, for accepting the invitation to share about what they do at their respective universities in this webinar. And then to thank them for the very rich and fruitful sharing. So if you're watching this, after the session, please share it to your colleagues, because I think this session is not only important for lecturers and students, but also people in the industry, because this is what the future will be like, because the graduates will soon enter the industry. And before we end, don't forget to screenshot your comments to get Ilam CPD. And then you can also reshare this video from Ilam's Facebook or also from YouTube. So from me, I would like to wish everyone Selamat Hari Raya Idul Fitri, Maaf Zahir Batin. And if you have any suggestions of future webinars that you would like Ilam to organize, please drop your comment and give us suggestions and feedback. So until our next time, I wish everyone a good Raya soon. Stay safe, stay home, stay healthy. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and goodbye.